Welcome back, and here is Samson's take, the curse of leadership in Africa. The UN Environment Programme tells us what we live and know, that Africa is rich in natural resources ranging from arable land, water, oil, natural gas, minerals, forest, and wildlife. The continent has 40% of the world's gold and up to 90% of its chromium and platinum. The largest reserves of cobalt, diamonds, platinum, and uranium in the world are in Africa, with 65% of the world's arable land. This means Africa ought to be rich, not the symbol of poverty and underdevelopment. It must feed the world and never be faced with hunger and starvation because Russia is at war with Ukraine. Ghana's economy must not collapse because of bombs thrown in countries millions of miles away. The little of the wealth that is exploited is stolen and taken abroad. Africa's leaders grow richer while their citizens seek greener pastures abroad or die starving. They go abroad cap in hand, borrow so much, and in Ghana, $3 billion is unaccounted for each year. Africa's youth, with a chance to get an education in Europe and China, are helping build their economies. Ghana does not produce even 1% of the millions of tons of poultry it consumes. The Africa Union's Agenda 2063 and the similar ones before this don't reflect beyond the paper they write these goals on. Mo Ibrahim reports that in 2017, 53% of surveyed members of extremist groups in Africa were between 17 and 26 years old when they joined, and the offer of employment was the most frequently cited incentive at the time of recruitment. In 2015, 86% of all African educated physicians working in the US were trained in Egypt, Ghana, Nigeria, and South Africa. 1 in 10 doctors working in the UK comes from Africa. In that year, 2015, doing a documentary for the BBC, I found, shockingly, that Ghanaian doctors in New York alone outnumbered the total number of doctors in Ghana. More than 60% of Africa's population is unenergetic youth whose leaders have spent decades, generations, promising them heaven and delivering them hell. Will Ghana spend money on the 6th of March to celebrate independence, or the fact that it is still independence? Instead of thinking of an agricultural revolution, for example, and jobs, we are busily building a cathedral on the foundation of lies at a time when the government says it cannot pay you your debt because it is broke. Some clergy who have lost their faith have joined politicians to lie that the state was not spending on rental accommodation and new buildings to relocate judges. They lied. They lied through their teeth that judges' bungalows that were being flattened for the cathedral were dilapidated, when in fact the majority of those bungalows were less than 5 years old, while others were even yet to be completed and were being constructed with loans, your money, taxpayers' money. They even lied to the Supreme Court that state funds will not be used, only to turn around to tell citizens the state will only provide an unquantified seed money. Religious leaders, who must be the voice of reason, speaking out and pushing back against corrupt politicians, have lost their voice. Those of them who, like Esau, have sold their faith and conscience for a pot of soup, a brown envelope, or board membership, deceive themselves that people don't know why they join their president to call the taxpayer some godless, rebellious Tobiases and Sambalats. Chairperson of Transparency International, Delia Rubio, notes that, quote, corruption has made our world a more dangerous place as governments have collectively failed to make progress against it. They fuel the current rise in violence and conflict and endanger people everywhere. The only way out is for states to do the hard work, rooting out corruption at all levels to ensure governments work for all people, not just an elite few, end quote. Dr. Randiabe puts it this way, quote, every country that has a large and growing army of people who have nothing to lose is a country that is facing danger, end quote. Please be reminded of the preamble of the Constitution that this democracy is built on, quote, the principle that all powers of government spring from the sovereign will of the people, and that Article 1 commands that, quote, sovereignty resides in the people in whose name and for whose welfare the powers of government, are to be exercised, end quote. You will have no need to caution the military about anything if you pursue the instruction in Article 36 that, quote, the most secure democracy is the one that assures the basic necessities of life for its people as a fundamental duty. The curse of leadership in Africa must end or will spell our doom. And that is my take. Now, this show is brought to you by the candid sponsorship of Bank of Africa, as strong as a group, close as a partner, MTN everywhere you go, Ashesi University, educating ethical and entrepreneur leaders for Africa, Robert & Sons Optical Services, your comprehensive eye care service provider for 31 years, My Way Insurance, dial *165# on the MTN to join, and St. Thomas Eye Hospital, providing excellence in eye care. We'll be right back, and we begin with a question why 10 people have been killed, 10 Ghanaian lives have been killed by the military, and it seems normal, just as 8 people were killed in the elections and nothing absolutely is done. We'll be right back.